Let's see. Call this meeting of Capital Program Committee to order Thursday, September 19th at a little bit after 3:05 p.m. This meeting is being audio video recorded. Anything you say or share on the screen will be shown on the town, displayed on the town's YouTube. Please act accordingly. I don't see any members of the public. Is that correct? Yeah, so no public comment. Hey, Christy, would you mind shutting that one behind you? Just, I think there's another meeting in there. We're here today to review capital FY26 capital requests and out year request for the school and also town admin. We'll take them in the order they're listed in the agenda. And let's see, from the school, who'd like to begin?
I can start if you like.
Thanks, Chip. I didn't want to have to pick a victim.
It's okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Chip Clooney, the facilities director. To start off, I'm looking at the building improvements. That was 450,000. We're looking at cabinetry, re-roofing. We have a number of roofs that we have to do. Really, the sort of a continuation of what we've been doing. We've got a lot of focus on security, and this includes doors, doorways, and our infrastructure for making them safe, and card readers and all that. When you change out a door, it's more than a simple process of changing the door. It's got to get rewired and put into our system. So that's that project. Any questions on that one?
Anyone here in the room or online, Peter?
A lot of doors.
Yeah. Let me see if I can move participants.
Rewiring.
There we go.
So these are exterior doors, Chip?
Yes, these aren't just, it's not solely exterior doors. That's just part of the package. Re-roofing. We re-roofed the vocational and wing this summer. We need roofs done in the elementary school. The elementary school needs a lot of work. So a lot of this is designed towards that. There's cabinetry that needs to be done.
I'm sorry.
Wait.
Every time you introduce a new item, will you tell us the number of the item, please, that you're working on?
That was Howard, and we're gonna, for the matter of minutes, be recognized by the chair, so that person can state your name. And then we'll move forward, okay?
NPS 2302.
Okay, Chip, please proceed.
Okay, so NPS 23003. Would that be correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Building improvements. So again, roofing, cabinetry in a lot of the rooms needs to be redone. It's been there for 40 years. It's falling apart. Flooring projects means there's carpet in rooms throughout areas of the school. We have been in the process of taking all the carpet out and we're replacing it with rubber tile. So that's just a process that's continuing for us.
Okay.
Okay.
Hold up one sec, Chip. We might have a
Sure.
question.
13003.
Yeah.
It says building improvements.
Yeah.
450.
Yeah. So just on that one, Chip, just on that more general topic, we've discussed in the past, and it would be very beneficial for Capcom to have projects that themselves qualify as a capital expense, to have them labeled as what the general scope of work is. Obviously, internally, these are, by building improvements for you, but for us, it's more beneficial to have direct information as to the scope or some inkling of what it is. We are where we are today, and we're going to move forward, but I want to mention that because it's not a new topic and we would like to see that addressed.
Okay, so to be clear, more of a breakdown on which roofs and which schools and that, is that what we're looking for?
I see it in the supplemental to a certain extent, but if you're gonna be presenting a request that's more than 50 grand, then that's a capital request and we'd like to see it. and we can discuss internally that, and that topic, and we can discuss it with finance, but having them lumped together unless they're well itemized by project in the supplemental, it makes it more difficult for us as, citizen reviewers to stay involved and track things. Jill?
Do you have a question?
Yeah, please.
Do they have to get HTC to get their doors replaced?
It depends on, well, if it's a light kind, they do not.
Okay.
If they modify the door type, they would, but I think the HTC would be amenable to quick consent-like approvals personally.
Right.
Can't
They're all
speak for the
tree
commission.
replacements.
I
Um,
had to ask.
We're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
changing colors. We're not changing colors.
Okay,
Oh.
Chip, what do you got next? Or any other questions on
Okay.
that?
Yeah, the
Wait, Chip, hold up.
Yeah,
How,
Howard,
variable costs, could you discuss that, please?
we got our costs from our estimates from projects that we've done in the past year. And estimates that we have, with the door replacements. Is that the question? I'm sorry.
Well, the line item says variable cost, damage control and plumbing and windows.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. We have had issues with, unexpected costs that we can't foresee. We've had over $100,000 with vandalism. With the plumbing issues, we've had contractors having to come in. There are any number of those costs. We have $100,000 simply because that was what we spent on the plumbing alone. Is that, Yeah.
Does this belong in here versus in their just general operating budget?
if it's an expense over 50 and it's a capital project, it would
But
be
it's not-
under the town code identified as.
Well, we don't know anything about whether it's over 50. The total is. but-
Yeah, well, that's why I said what I said before, is a little bit more segregation would be beneficial, but I'm sorry, I missed the first part of that conversation. Which is the particular project we're talking about?
We're talking about.
this variable costs?
Variable costs, damage control and plumbing.
Right.
So they're estimating it was 100 and it's gonna be 103.
Right, but I'm not sure why this belongs here in front of us.
Okay, well, we will pick that up with finance department. If you would be so kind as to make a note, it's a valid question. And, they may have an explanation that we find, equally as valid, and we'll go from there. Sound fair?
If I may, hi, this is Beth Hallett. I don't have my camera on. Martin, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, I mean, the variable costs, just the question, we've expended $250,000 in about 2 years on issues related to vandalism. So that's why they've subsided. So we are hopeful that that whole situation is under control. But like I said, this is a substantial expense and it's unanticipated. So that's why we don't budget it in our operating budget. But I would welcome any suggestions as to how to cover it. So that's why we call it variable, because we don't know, obviously, whether it's going to occur or not. But it's a repair and maintenance, and the cost has been huge for us.
And I just want to follow up. Thank you, Martin. Howard, your concern is in part perhaps that it's listed as variable, but are you concerned that in of itself, it's not a capital expenditure?
Actually, I never raised the variable point, but really the word is miscellaneous, maybe, not variable. But the truth be told is that this, to me, unless you know that you have a specific item that's over $50,000,
Right.
it doesn't really belong here, it belongs in the school's operating budget.
Okay, fair enough. I just wanted to get a clarity on the concern you had, so when we discuss this in the future, we know.
So I wrote that note.
Perfect. Jill?
I think you're raising a good point. If this is in the warrant,
I
right,
mentioned this. These
itemized,
are my notes for
would
us.
it, I mean, do they want to say like projected vandalism costs? I mean.
They're just not,
I-
yeah,
I'm
Yeah, no,
asking the
I get it.
question Because I understand what you're doing and it's valid.
it's valid,
And people need to see the headline. They're not gonna read past that, so
right?
why not, it's an emergency fund for vandalism or something like that, maybe.
Right. And I think that these are good points, and what we're gonna do is note our comments, because then we're gonna get a real bite at the apple when we have finance here to get into more detail. So at this point, I'm not trying to close up the discussion on the topic.
Yeah.
Let's ask the questions relative to the concern, and then we'll move on to the next one. And then at the next stage of the game, when we have finance here, we'll address is this the appropriate location for it?
Howard, I like what Jill said, because if it is an emergency fund, then it
It
does,
might not get spent,
but it does make sense, then that it's now here.
right, but it might not get spent,
Right.
so. It's a little different than a capital
Yes.
expenditure.
Fair enough. Next topic.
Okay, NPS 26001, security camera replacement. We're looking at overhauling our security cameras with Verkada changing the company. These cameras that we've had for years. These new cameras, the resolution is greater. They have facial recognition, and they have the ability to read license plates in the parking lots. It's certainly more of a proactive program than we have now. It gives us the ability to find people who might not be allowed on campus, and it notifies us to their whereabouts.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns? No?
Does
Jill?
the state require you to have this particular kind of? I understand
No.
why you're doing it, I just didn't know if there's like a state mandate there.
No, but our cameras now just don't have the capacity to do these things. So we need an upgrade. Valley, maybe Joanne can chime in. Or maybe not.
I don't see Joanne listed.
Joanne
Jim, I have a
Johnson?
question. I have a question while we're finding out if Joanne's available.
Okay.
So this is the cost, but you're not paying given the technology that exists now versus when these cameras were originally sourced and installed, you're getting a higher level of detail with respect to identification and visual focus. But that's
Absolutely.
because that's what's off the shelf. You're not, is there a premium for the cameras you're selecting, or is it just, this is the better technology and it's time for an upgrade?
This is the better technology. It's certainly time for an update. And as I said, the quality of the resolution and the things that these can do are just so much better.
Thanks. Christie?
Hi, Chip. Just
Hey.
curious if is this just for the cameras, or are you able to use existing infrastructure?
We can use the existing infrastructure for most cameras. There will be a few that we'll have to wire ourselves, but we can handle the install ourselves, and we can handle the wiring that's entailed by ourselves.
And then just to follow up, are these replacing all existing cameras? And are you adding additional cameras for different angles?
Yes to both. We found, obviously, there's holes we have that we're gonna put in cameras. We've already put 2 in new places. So we are definitely gonna add cameras and put cameras in spots that we need.
I'm here now, Chip, if you need me.
Let's see, Joanne, do we want to circle back? What was the question again? Refresh my memory, please.
Joanne, we're talking about one of the updates. What we're getting out of the Verkada cameras? What are the improvements?
Ease of use is one of them. The Verkada cameras also allow us to text message a camera feed. So if an administrator is not on island at the time something happens, we can send them a quick text message and they can see the camera on the fly. They are web-based. We have unlimited data storage. And they have the ability to, like, a 2-day turnaround. They've been unbelievably responsive when we have called them on various things.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments, concerns?
Just one.
John, then Howard?
I'm not sure what Joanne, but is this the same vendor as the old ones? And so the second question is, did we look at a number of different vendor proposals for this? Because I mean, there are a lot of, high-tech companies out there these days in the camera area?
We looked at Bricata, we've looked at, Joanne, do you know the name of the other two that we looked at, that BCM gave us?
So our current system runs on Genetec, which is the security software that is used also by the police department. And they can support any number of manufacturers of cameras. The downside to that system is that it's not web-based, so you can't get to it unless you're inside the building or you have a VPN connection. So you don't have the same kind of access if you are not physically in the district. The cameras we have right now, some of them are 20 years old. And so the lens has fogged over. Sometimes you can't even see through them. We've been swapping the lenses around so you can see through the other side, but we did not go out to look at like many different manufacturers. We have a couple of different models like Panasonic and Hanway that we have now, like the Panasonics we have regularly installed, and then the Hanway are the ones that they just sent us, because we are comparing the existing company that we're using with the new one that we're considering. And the camera, a new camera compared to a new camera is probably going to be very similar. The difference is that this company is sort of like Apple in that it's like, it's its own little microcosm. You pay for their dashboard and you use their cameras, but what you get for that is a piece of equipment that they will replace like within days. We just had one flood. I'll turn my video on so I'm not this like blank screen here staring at you guys. We had one flood, and when we told them that we needed to have it replaced, they asked for some pictures. They said, okay, here's your RMA, and they sent us a new camera, and the whole turnaround was about 3 days, which on Nantucket is really high quality response. And many times when you are looking at hardware or software, it's not the equipment that makes or breaks the deal, it's the support you get behind it. And this company has just been so responsive compared to any of the other companies that we've had in HVAC or security or any of the other things that go along with facilities, that we didn't really go beyond that. Now we can, and if you need us to, we will. But the Genetec software is what handles all of our doors. We wouldn't be getting rid of that right off the bat anyway. So we still have the ability to bring any number of manufacturers of cameras in that would run with that system. It just wouldn't have the other benefits that we get with the Verkada system.
Just to follow up then, you mentioned the police department. Did the police department have a specific recommendation on the cameras or no?
They haven't said that there's a specific recommendation on the camera, because like I said, a modern camera is pretty good no matter what manufacturer you get. I mean, it's like buying a new computer. You buy a new computer and it's probably going to satisfy all of your needs. So the cameras that we have right now have got 4K resolution. They are really good. The samples that we got from BCM, from Hanway manufacturer, are 4K. So if we put the Verkada camera and the Hanway camera side by side, you'll probably get pretty similar resolution. So again, it's all about the support that you get and then what the software can do. Both of them are getting into AI. Both of them are getting into license plate reading. Both of them are getting into following the tracks of people who come and go on the system. So it's, our needs are not super complicated.
Yeah, I got it, John. Just one last question and then I'm done, I promise. Do we know what cameras, say the fire department, police station, what they have in those kind of emergency facilities? Do we know what?
I don't know. I suspect they're Panasonic, because when we've had problems, we've asked Deputy Chief to help us out with getting into the cameras and stuff. But, they're in the same boat that we are. It's time to get newer equipment. And so, they may buy a different manufacturer too.
Yeah, but I guess my question or my suggestion would be then, shouldn't we look at standardizing across, camera system is a camera system. Shouldn't we look at standardizing across all of our major town buildings with the same one, so that, if we want to keep a few spares on the island, we can. If we have issues with it, we have people that are familiar no matter where it is, whether it's the school or the fire station. It just seems to me like it would be worth looking at. Shouldn't we have a standardization program here? Because probably that would bring the cost down anyway.
I don't disagree with you. And that's why we standardize on Dells for computers and HPs for switches, and that's why we have standardization that way. What we're comparing right now is not the camera so much as we're comparing the company or the software that runs them. So in this case, it would be Genetec compared to Verkada. And because Genetec can run all kinds of cameras, no matter what it is.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll leave it at that, but
Yeah.
it's just, for me, it seems to be, if we're gonna be looking at cameras across the town, we ought to be,
Sure.
whether it's the system or the cameras, we should be.
I get it. I just wanna, I'll follow up. Chris, are you still?
I did, is there, you were saying, kind of like Apple, is there an annual cost to the program? And, if there is any monitoring, and if there is a annual fee that you guys pay, a service fee or, then is that, will that be coming out of your general fund?
No, we don't have a PM with them, a maintenance program. We call them and they react to cameras that are down and repairs that need to be made.
Well,
And you,
when you buy the camera, you buy a maintenance program with it. So you're paying for the camera and you're paying for some period of time of maintenance. You get to choose how long that is. You can choose 1 year to 10 years. And during that time of maintenance that you pay for at the time you purchase it, you don't have to pay for replacements. They just give you what you need to replace it.
Stephen, just one follow.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
So in this amount that you've requested, is there a certain year annual program? Okay, thanks.
No.
And then, is there someone, on staff that obviously can help with, install and managing the work that's needed?
Yes, we do have people on staff that can install for sure.
Okay.
These have a 10-year license, so these would be good for 10 years. The price included. So if we had any issues within a 10-year period, we would call them up and they would replace the cameras.
Thank you.
That's the max.
Yeah, got it.
Martin, wait 1 second.
Just to emphasize what Joanne mentioned, because I think that's extremely important to us. We've gone through support, for instance, for our filtration system in the Nantucket Intermediate School, and Chip can speak about the endless travails that we went through to find a company that can actually fix a chiller for that system. It is essential for us is the service, and not a lot of companies come to Nantucket to service equipment. So I think it's essential to maintain this distinction. It's that the equipment, while the equipment might have exactly the same specs, the support that we're getting from Verkada and the maintenance and the responsiveness is essential for us. Just wanted to put that out because I think that was a great point.
Thank you, Howard.
Yeah, I have two questions. One is, so the quote is from Winslow. Is Winslow the party that's responsible then to come in and maintain and repair the system?
So
Is he-
Winslow is the reseller for Verkada. They would be the Massachusetts-based company that could come down here if we needed them to. So far, the 9 cameras that we have installed were installed by in-house staff. It's a very simple installation process for these, and they sort of self-register, so there's not a lot of configuration that you have to do.
Right. In my experience in doing exactly this, the license fee is different than the service fee. So I'm not convinced, but I don't really know that license of $270,000 covers 10 years of on-site support.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. I think it's just the replacement of the cameras.
So do we know what the additional cost is for the service contract for how many years you would get?
Well, we're not
sh- sh-
obligated to get a service request, or service program. If we have people on site that can do it, we could do it ourselves. It's up to us to decide if we need another person, like Brian Potter could come and do it if we needed to have somebody come and do something.
So what
Can
about,
I ask that a different way, Howard?
well, I was just gonna say, what about remote off-site support for your efforts? Is that what you were gonna?
No, I was just gonna see if I could redirect, because it seems to me that what the school is saying is the service aspect that's important is camera replacement, and you're focusing on, well, where's the service cost? But I think, Joanne, correct me if I'm wrong, the cost of replacements is baked into the cake under the price of the cameras, and somewhere in this already, there isn't, you're not actually looking for someone to come down here and do programming of cameras or that type of service, which you would need a separate contract for.
Well, that's what I was
No.
saying, that they are self-registering. There's no programming involved in the camera. And when I've had to get technical support for a camera that wasn't working, I do that, they do that, Vergata does that online, and they are able to log into the systems remotely and check on things, and there's no extra cost for that piece.
There's no extra cost for whenever you call them, they'll provide you with direct login service.
Well, wait, let's get an answer, because this, I don't want this to go in circles. Joanne, did you catch that? Service, the camera service, to the extent you have articulated you require it, is covered in this quote that you have provided.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
All of the direct connection to Vergata is covered in the cost.
Chrissy?
But, I thought maybe Chip said that included in this is a 10-year allotment for any service, that you got the maximum of the service plan or free cameras sent or whatever that is. Is
Chip?
that correct?
Yeah,
Before you answer, Jeff, why don't you go ahead for us and define what you're referring to as quote unquote service? So we're all on the same page for this, because I think we're talking different.
right.
bit
For us, I'm sorry, for us, service would mean just camera replacement. If there was a camera that went down, we would call them up. We've sent them, we take the camera down. I took pictures of it. They sent us a camera. I put the broken camera in the box that it came in and send it right back to them. So that lease program is, it's a camera replacement system.
Lease program, okay,
Okay.
all right.
So this is a lease, not an outright purchase, which you did mention earlier, but I didn't pick up on, and it doesn't reflect in the quote, which now makes complete sense as to what the service replacement model is that you are receiving. John?
I don't know how far you want to go with it.
Well, I mean, let's ask.
All right, so I'm just following up on Chris's point, because often with this kind of system, it isn't the camera that breaks, it's come disconnected from the network. Nobody can figure out, like, well, where is it? Why is it? What is it? The network's down? No, it's not. Network's up, but 3 cameras are down. It's that kind of service I think we should be worrying about, but that may not be for this meeting.
No, that's okay. So, I mean, I think it's a fair question. Joanne, you had stated that these are self-registering. I guess the question is, do you need connectivity services? And if you do, what aspect of those are covered in this quote? And if you do and they're not covered, how do you address that?
So, shall I answer that, Chip?
Yes, please.
Right now, we don't have a maintenance program that does that kind of work for our current cameras. So in that respect, nothing changes. We do that in-house. I take care of making sure that I know every switch that's being used and where the cameras are connected. So if something goes down, it's my job to check and make sure that the switch is working and the connections to the switch are operational. So the Genetech people only come and do work on the actual cameras, which would be kind of the same thing with this new company. It's the actual camera. If it goes down, it gets sent back. So for a maintenance program in the future, that would be an operational tech question. And depending on how operational tech is handled in the district in the future, that type of service would be covered in that area.
Thank you. Does that address does it answer your question?
Not
Whether we,
She created another question. You said this is a lease and not a purchase?
I don't think it's a lease. I think it's a purchase.
Someone said it was a lease.
They did, and because it seems like a lease, like 10 years.
They refer to it as a lease.
But at the end of the 10 years, we still own the cameras.
Right, so you're paying,
Oh.
because if it was a lease, you'd be paying all 10 years up front, and that was
Right.
interesting to me, and you're,
Right.
or,
Joanne, I've actually designed and installed systems. I don't have, that was a few years ago, but not too many. The question I have is, trying to get a handle on this, is to the extent that you all require services, I just want to be clear in my understanding, is the cost of those services and the services you require built into this quote? Or is there another aspect of this that we need to be getting our arms wrapped around and that has a cost associated with it?
So times are a changing. It's kind of hard to answer that question, but if today was the same in 2 years as it is now, I would say that there is no additional cost because the school and the tech staff take care of those kinds of type of issues. We have, I do the management of the network myself, and Dave Evans is doing all the installation of the cameras and running the wires. So between us, we are handling all of the kind of stuff that you're talking about right now. And will that be the same going forward? It depends on what the model the school chooses to follow with regards to operational technology.
Okay. Thank you for answering that. We'll have more to discuss it when we get to it, I think, unless there's other questions. Chris,
Just one quick
Yeah.
question. Verkada, how long have they been doing business?
I could look it up in Wikipedia.
how do you spell the
It's
name?
been a while. Verkada. It's been a while.
Okay, I
There's
just want to make sure it's legit. Not just a quick upstart.
so I guess asking a different way, Joanne, you guys are comfortable with the service provider? Based
They're
on your experience?
They're one of the top providers for this kind of stuff.
Okay, that's helpful information. Good question. Okay, great. So unless there's other questions, we're gonna move on to the next one. Chip, you wanna?
Yep, all right, NPS 26002, campus-wide safety and security improvements. This is gonna include, one of the things that we have our security lockdowns. That is when there's an intruder, one of the schools or all the schools locked down, and every classroom needs to have a special lock. So what we've done here is we found a lock that we can use universally throughout the entire district. And that price, that flip lock, is listed about $60,000, and that would go on every classroom door, every door that somebody would be in. It's a simple thing that goes on the hinge. You close the door and you just flip it over and it locks the door. Nobody can get in. No intruder can get in. So that's something that we have that we need to install. We've been looking for something that we could use universally for years. We researched this and this is what they finally come up with that we can use. These other systems that we've looked at, you have to drill into the floor. And the new school, we have heating systems that are in the floor. So we just can't do a universal system.
Two.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then there's another aspect to this, right?
Right. Well, other than that, the price that we're quoted is just for the locks themselves. We need an installation crew that would need to come in. And then the rest is just going, it's one of those things that like I had in the first unit I had, the building improvements, just the cost of what we've been doing with our systems, for just maintenance. And like we have fire alarm system, we have motion detector systems and numerous companies that go on. So that would be 82,000. That's what we've listed that at.
Okay, so you guys are characterized, this harkens back to a discussion we had not very long ago today, which is you all are characterizing this as a capital expense because it involves capital infrastructure equipment,
Yeah, money, yeah. And
as opposed to operating where it's maintenance and repairs.
right,
I'm just trying to make sure I understand, because it jives with the question that was asked earlier. And it gives us a better understanding, so when we have a discussion in the future, we know where you all are coming from on it.
absolutely.
Okay, questions, Howard?
Yeah, so you said for the $82,000, we have had a lot of costs that are difficult to predict, but are the highest priority with regards to safety of students to repair. But I thought you said that this was for installation, the 82,000 partially? So is
Partially,
there,
well, yeah, I was including that in that money to find somebody to install these locks.
so do you think maybe you should itemize it differently then?
Quite possibly, if you think so, we can do that. Would you like, I could do a breakdown.
Yeah. Chip, I think for us, it's about the detail, just having the line,
Okay.
segregating these things out so that when we're sitting here, we're looking at these, we just came in from Mars and we don't know anything about the details other than what you provide us, so our minds are noodling through here and trying to determine how much, what cost is, and does it seem cost appropriate?
Okay,
So that helps us accomplish our goal. It doesn't necessarily hinder you at all. Christie?
Chip, just a question, these flip locks from inside the room, can any individual activate it? And or, what if the lock is activated and the issue is in the classroom?
if the intruder was in the classroom,
Correct.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm just,
Oh.
what if people need to get out of a classroom as opposed to someone not getting into a classroom?
Certainly they could open the door. Yeah, this is just a simple flip lock. So from the interior, it's an easy access and an easy thing to do. Normally I understand what you're saying, to sort of a flight risk thing, leaving.
Yeah.
You wouldn't activate the door. It would be easy to unlock the door and you could get out of the classroom if you needed to, if you so desired. It would work that way.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, I think that's good.
This is from the Nantucket Police Department, so they've approved this and they've seen it and they want to push this forward.
Yeah.
So
Is there any proposed penalty if students start flipping these locks?
Man, I wish I could say, but that's really not
Yeah, I get it.
that's not my pay grade.
Got it.
I'll show you what it looks like.
Okay, thanks, Christie. Anything else? Guys, gals? No?
That's what.
Right. Interesting stuff. It sounds like there's some policy decisions to make for the school. Okay, so that is
Just
actually,
click someplace.
Yeah.
I've got one more.
In there.
yeah, I was trying to figure out where we were, the,
Vestibule.
Right,
yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Run that alphanumeric for Howard.
I got it. I asked you that because I'm taking notes at the same time for our group. As you're doing it, so for me to, I have to go back and forth through a few things at the same time, but I got this one, thank you.
I apologize.
Go ahead, Chip.
Okay, so this is NPS 26003, the Nantucket Elementary School vestibule project. When we did a little design work a few years ago with Mr. Kozort, we put vestibules in all the schools. And in the elementary school, we put up 2 sets of doors that go down the hallways in the lobby. I don't know if any of you have been in the elementary school. What's happened is the office there doesn't have any visual access to see. They can't, there's no line of sight. So what we wanted to do was redesign the front office and possibly make a vestibule. We're talking to SMRT to come up with a design plan, and they've given us an estimate of the 270 for the entire project. So as of now, we're just in the design phase. We're just talking about what we want to do. but we want to get it done as soon as we can. This is something that the admin in the elementary school is very keen on.
Okay, thanks, Chet.
Okay.
And. All right, let's see. No questions out there. Anyone here? Questions or comments? Okay, sounds good.
Thank
If
you.
we have any follow-ups, we'll run that through Sue at finance and she'll be in touch. And already made a note to discuss the comments on our thoughts on capital once we get a clarification. Okay, perfect. Okay, well, hey, look, thank you for coming in to the school. We appreciate your time and putting the detail into this. A tiny bit of fine tuning would go a long way on our end. We do appreciate the work you're doing, but that would be helpful.
Right.
All right. We are not gonna move.
We have
We have one more
request. I'm
Stephanie's got-
sorry. We have one more request.
Which one is it? IT?
Technology, yes.
Oh, okay.
NPS 21002.
I closed that one early. Go ahead.
It's okay, you can close it, and so I made a presentation, I don't know if that's appropriate, or I can share my screen, however you guys want to do it, or I can just do it ad hoc.
I think you can do it ad hoc. We've read, I believe most of us have read the project summary. And so if you want to hit, why don't you go through and do what you intended to do, Stephanie, and we'll go from there.
Okay, I'll share my screen then, how's that? You can see my.
Yeah.
Can you guys all see it?
Yes.
So this is our capital request for ed tech. Basically, it's just getting ready for the future. And I wanted to take a chance to introduce myself. Stephanie Hoban, I'm the brand new, maybe what, 5 weeks is it, Martin, 6 weeks? Director of Educational Technology for the schools. So I have Joanne here to help me because a lot of this was on her docket when she was the interim tech director. So I think there's going to be a lot of questions you're going to direct to Joanne and not to me. So we basically have 5 areas that we are reviewing. One is upgrading our 20-year plus phone system. Another is upgrading critical parts of our network. The third is buying additional interactive panels so that we have a consistency in classroom use, upgrading our teacher laptops, and the Mac lab upgrade. Any questions so far?
Nope.
Okay, so phone system upgrade, essentially what we're going to do is modernize our phone system with an up-to-date voice over IP phone. And what that means is that we're going to replace the system with up-to-date equipment, purchasing 250 phones for the classroom, 3 phone controllers, 4 streamlined devices, and a voicemail controller. We will also need to bring in wiring people to wire the classrooms to support those updated phones. Why we need this is because our phone system is out of date and some parts are not eligible for security upgrades anymore, which leaves our network vulnerable. And a more modern phone system may give us options to update the PA system that will improve overall building security, because we're hearing that a lot of the teachers in classrooms cannot hear announcements. And we know that phone systems have that capability to sort of act like the speaker system. And so we are asking for $120,526 for that. Any questions?
Nope, go ahead.
Come on, you had so many questions about the cameras. You got nothing.
Great, you've asked again, and now we have one, Jill.
By the way, I'm loving this presentation.
Yeah.
This is so user
Oh,
friendly.
thank you.
This is for all the phones. These are like hardline phones?
Yes, these were the hardwired phones in the classrooms and in the offices.
And how often do you use those?
We use them a lot. The
All the time.
yeah, all the time.
So
The
that's really that is how you all communicate at school? You're not like texting each other?
We don't have the capacity within the buildings with our network system to be able to, we need the phones. We need the phones.
Yeah, yeah. I just thought it was like an intercom system. I didn't think you actually used them to communicate.
Well, and also a lot of teachers use their classroom's phone to call parents rather than having the parents know their personal cell phones. I know they use the Remind app, but it's nice to have that sort of anonymous phone for them, not anonymous, but phone for them to call without giving away their cell phone information.
Yeah, I have gotten that call before. It's not so fun to get it. Scary.
All right, thanks, Stephanie. What do you got next?
Network system upgrade. So we're going to purchase new switches and transceivers, essentially to future-proof our network. And what that means is that we have to plan for increased network use, more devices, more people going on all the time. The kids on their phones, the teachers on their phones on our networks. So we're going to install a switch in each of our 12 data closets that is capable of 10 gigabyte data speeds with 48 ports. And then we're going to order 24 10 gigabyte transceivers to give additional strength to our network. So this is really the backbone of our network, and we just need to make sure that it has the capacity built into it to encourage more use of technology, 21st century learning in our classrooms. And we are asking for $116,000 for this. Moving on.
Looks like 111.5.
Oh, sorry, you're right. I got grab the 6.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this.
You're right.
Howard, 1 sec, Stephanie. Howard?
So you, for one of you guys for this, rated this whole package as medium. And I was wondering, are they all medium, and is it really medium, or is it maybe more critical than medium?
I don't know who rated it medium, but I would say most of what we're asking for is critical. I think I think when we think about what critical is critical like it's broken and it's on fire? No, but we want to prevent broken and on fire. So it's critical in that eventually, if we don't get this done, we'll be on fire.
So do you want to revise that, whoever did this, Sue? So when we go back to it, we'll see that it's high rather than medium?
Yes, I'll revisit it with the school as they submitted it as a medium request.
I'm the one that actually submitted it as medium, and for the very reason that Stephanie just said. It's not broken, but when it does break, it will be critical. So I don't know how you say that.
It sounds like we're gonna need a software enhancement for another
Like
category.
how could it not be critical in the sense that if it fails tomorrow, you're screwed,
Right,
right?
exactly.
Okay, no, that's helpful information. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Okay, so we are going to add interactive panels. So we have been in the, future past tech directors have been in the process of installing new line interactive panels in every classroom. 40 will just about finish the school district so that every classroom has a new line interactive panel. And this will give a consistency for classroom experience for teachers and students. It's especially important in buildings where the teachers move from room to room. So in one room, they could have a brand new fancy multi-capacity, a new line interactive panel, and then in another room, they could have an old projector type of situation. So we want everyone to be able to have the same consistent experience. The projectors that we have are end of life, and getting bulbs and parts for them are becoming very difficult. So we are looking for $86,318 to round out the classroom installation of new line panels.
Okay.
Okay. We're also going to look for upgrading teacher laptops. So our teacher laptops they're about 4 years old. By the time next year rolls around, they'll be 5 years old. I can tell you because they gave me one when I first got here. They're very poor battery life, and they're pretty slow, and their hard drives are reaching end of life. So basically, the older the laptop, the slower it gets. And as we want teachers to more and more integrate with technology in their classrooms, we're just going to need that they have devices that will keep up with that. And the new devices we're looking to purchase are faster and will allow them to do more. It's all about the tabs. Teachers love having 400,000 tabs open. Just like I right now have a tab, if you ask them for my spreadsheet, teachers need that, and those tabs are what suck up all the energy on a computer. So to make our teachers happy, we're looking for $250,000. I feel like I'm on Fish Tank or whatever that thing is called, Shark Tank.
Shark Tank. Well, you'd win in the graphics department.
Oh.
Ed fund you.
Yeah, you just mentioned the hard drives are end of life or capacity, something like that. So are teachers not having all their stuff in the cloud? Are they still really having stuff on their hard
It
drives?
is in the cloud, but it's still all of those, even in the cloud, all of the tabs, it's making, they still have to go to various places, and it does slow down the computers. Even though they're in the cloud. I'm gonna have Joanne talk a little bit more about that than I do, because she's more of an network person, but they need the capacity even if things are in the cloud.
So when we talk about the hard drive on a computer, we're talking about its operating system. The machine won't turn on without an operating system, and that's on the hard drive. The industry standard for hard drive life is 5 years. It could last 10 or 15 years, or it can last 3 years. It's just what it is. But the hard drive is required for a computer to work.
Jill?
It's just the standard 500 every year that we see on laptop replacement for
Yeah.
school.
Remember that guy asked about it in that one meeting, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Power?
Yeah, I do have a question. So, when I buy my Dell, I buy the, I can call you at any time and you can help me. You must help me. Do you guys buy this sort of, hand-holding package? Cause I know you guys are more technical savvy than I am, but there are times when Dell needs to fix something.
Oh, you mean the Dell upgrades?
The Dell login to assist you to fix problems on these computers.
So I think there's two different kinds of support here. You as an end user would need end user support. The tech
Yes.
department has staff that do that. So we have our own staff for end user support. We do have Dell accounts that when we need to do something on a computer, and usually it's return it for repair, that we contact Dell directly, and then the IT department takes care of that. But we buy I don't know what the going forward model is going to be. Very often we pay for additional warranty on our computers to last the length of time that we think we're going to have them in use, which allows us to get parts to replace them. And our techs are capable of replacing screens and hard drives and keys on keyboards and things like that. It's pretty unusual that we have to send a machine back. We usually just get parts sent to us.
Yeah, that's what I get under my extended warranty is all of that. So you're getting that, but I'm looking at the Dell site here and I'm just wondering, I know you guys are smarter than me on this, but are you buying the right item or are you buying the bargain basement version of this? Or are you buying something that that everybody feels like it's got good bells and whistles to be able to really help them as much as you can?
We are not buying the bargain basement. No, we are buying high-end, not high-end, I mean, because we're not spending $2,000 a device, but the devices that we ordered, the Dell Latitude 5450 at $1,250, that's a pretty robust machine. So we're not cheating the teachers out of capacity.
Yeah. That one here, the same one, looks like it's 16 gigabytes and 256. But it's 11 Pro.
John?
Yeah, I'm not sure, John, whether this is a question for you or it might be for Stephen or anyone actually around the table, but one way or another across the town, we must use an awful lot of computers. Do somebody have the responsibility for that?
Yeah.
Wherever they lie. So when it comes to which model and all of that and
Yeah.
which brand.
So the town has an IT department that addresses that for the town overall. I don't know to what extent, and Stephanie, you can address it, you've talked about it a little bit, that the town IT department is an asset to the school, or if they in effect have their own IT department. That's the one I would bounce back to you, Stephanie.
The town has their own IT department. We have our own IT department. And we work together for some projects. I know that we are working with their security expert, which we don't have in our department. With their guidance, we are using the KnowBe4 cybersecurity, and we're having regular meetings with the IT department, the town's IT department, to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Okay, thank you. John, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I guess for when we get further down the line, that'll be one of the questions. Should we be somebody responsible for the contract for however many laptops we need across the town? But that's probably more for.
IT.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, good point. Thank you. Stephanie? That was, go ahead.
Yep, we have one last one. We're going to upgrade the Mac lab in the high school. So it is about 4 years old right now. The biggest problem is the storage. Last year, IT was able to jury rig additional storage methods, which have been working very well. So yay, Joanne and team. But we would like to upgrade the new iMacs to ensure faster performance and access to the latest software, especially for the digital photography classes, which are proving to be extremely popular. And to get those happy students, we are requesting $40,000.
Okay. Questions? Who can question happy students? Okay, next one.
And that is it. So I think our total that we're requesting for capital budget is $608,419. I think you had us down for 609. So yep.
And Stephanie, can you refresh, what was the number you have for the phones?
The phones was
120 something?
I think you said.
126.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I thought I heard 111 at one point, and that it didn't seem right, so I ran the numbers on the back of the envelope, and it was what you have there. I just wanted to make sure that if I misunderstood, I understood correctly now, and if the number was incorrect, we adjusted it so you had the funds you needed, but you have the correct number, of course.
Great.
Any other questions on school at this out years? Maybe just focus on FY27 if there's a question on any of those. Christie?
I just had a question. It might not be really capital related, but the interactive whiteboards, I'm sorry. You guys, do these change the teacher's curriculum and how they teach? And do you guys consider that an improvement? Do you currently have interactive screens and you're just replacing them? I'm sorry, I missed that in the thing, but
Yes.
I'm just curious to know how this affects the teacher's curriculum and the effectiveness of instruction.
Well, there's a variety of ways, and I think part of that speaks to why I was hired with my educational background, my ed tech background versus my hardware background. The new line boards have built-in software. The teachers do not have to connect their laptops. They can use the built-in software without you using their laptops. It has a lot of capacity that I actually don't know yet because we did not use New Line in my old school. And one of the techs and I are meeting on Friday to learn all about it. But definitely just the ability, once those screens, once the screens get old, the kids, we know kids are so accustomed to having the screen right in front of their face. So the clarity of the picture for what the teacher is showing is really important. Being able to write and have the writing be where it's supposed to be and not be distracting. Again, the older the board, the more that alignment goes off and the more difficult it is for the students to pay attention and focus, which is the number one thing we have problems with across the board, across grade levels, right? Even at home is attention and focus. And so anything that we can do to increase that attention and focus, which is what these boards do. And that's what we're looking to do.
And I would add to that, as an answer to part of your question is, yes, we're replacing interactive boards that are already in the classrooms. So the teachers already have experience with an interactive whiteboard of some sort. Many of them are still using the short throw projector types, but yes, they have access to those. And Stephanie touched on this very, very quickly, but the impetus behind her hire was to integrate technology in the classroom. And this is an area in our district that is sorely underutilized and hopefully will become a shining star in the not too distant future. But in order to do that, we need to have equipment that is the same, like equity across the district. You can't have some people being able to do a thing and then the next teacher in the next classroom not being able to do that thing, as well as the fact that bulbs and whatnot are getting harder to replace on these short throw boards.
I would just finish by saying, whenever you discuss these, add that in there, because it is effective to hear that. That's all.
Thank you.
This is Howard, I wanted to add that the huge upgrade when we were in public school was overhead projectors.
Yeah.
Just wanted to say that.
Very nice.
We all thought we needed glasses.
Right, it's just great.
Now we know we
If
did.
I may,
Yeah,
first of
Beth.
all, this is Beth Hallett. My apologies that I don't have my camera on. I'm actually recovering at home from surgery 2 days ago. So I'm so thankful to have the team here to really discuss in detail what our needs are capital-wise. And I think that Stephanie and Joanne have really come together to provide a really clear view of our needs. And Stephanie's absolutely right. She has been hired for really bringing us into the next generation of technology, which we're a little behind on here in Nantucket, believe it or not. So I'm really glad that she's here and is able to articulate that today.
Well, thanks, Beth.
Sure.
Thanks, Beth. And we
You did a
appreciate
great
the work.
job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any follow-up? I just a couple quick questions. I guess general question, Chip, on the out years, looking at 27. Your roof replacements and building improvements, are those in essence placeholder numbers based upon past years, or do you have specific projects in mind? Well, I guess what I'm trying to understand is, are those you think fairly accurate, or you think you're going to be looking for more or less?
I would say more, but those are the projects that I have listed out. But I think our costs are gonna go higher in the coming years.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah.
all our construction costs are just going skyrocketing. Like anybody who comes, to have people come off island, to have our contractors and even local guys, the costs are really starting to get higher and higher.
No, understand that for sure. Okay. All right. Well, thank you again for your time and putting this information together for us. I think you all know our process or generally so. Capital Program Committee will be reviewing these individually. establishing a kind of a ranking, and obviously if we have any follow-up questions, they'll come back to you through the finance department and we'll go from there, okay? Thanks
Great, thank
again.
you.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're gonna move on to town
you.
admin.
Thanks.
Town admin, which has town admin proper, capital program requests, also housing and our island home. And who do we have from the town here today? Hi, Libby. And Christy. Libby, why don't we give you the floor, and just before you guys get started, give us an idea of which way you want to go with these. If you're going to do housing, our island home, and then town admin, or what the sequence is going to be, please.
Okay, I think I'm gonna go first, if it's okay, and do our island home, because I have to leave here at 4:30. And then between Christy and Rick, they can do town employee housing, design and construction. And then, unfortunately, we don't have Greg today. He had to leave to get off island, and he was gonna do the townwide document management system under town admin. I think Rick might be able to cover that one. And PFAS, same thing. We'll do our best on those two.
Okay, yeah, why don't you get started with your exit time here?
Okay, so our island home, I wanted to give you a little bit of an update, a little kind of a recap of this project. At the 2017 annual town meeting, the town proposed acquiring property adjacent to Sherburne Commons, plus an appropriation for a skilled nursing facility to be constructed there. The articles put before the voters were not approved. In 2018, the select board directed town admin to determine what it would take to construct a new facility at the current site at East Creek Road. Thereafter, between 2019 and 2021, architects were engaged to undertake the analysis. We held some charrettes with stakeholders. Stakeholders were interviewed. Other properties close to the current site were reviewed and evaluated. Consultation with the Department of Public Health at the state level occurred. An analysis of different operating models was conducted. After all of that, at its meeting on August 18th, 2021, the select board voted to pursue a new Our Island Home facility at the Sherburne site, Sherburne Commons site on South Shore Road, with the current Our Island Home to be repurposed for a senior center, and to put forward articles at the 2022 annual town meeting to design a new facility. At the 2022 annual town meeting and subsequently the election, design and associated funds in the amount of $8.5 million was approved. And of course, you know some of this because it went through Capcom. We procured our design architect and owner's project manager in 2023. The board approved a construction manager at risk project delivery method. That approach also requires approval of the state inspector general that was granted earlier this year. Using the CMR process increases accuracy of cost estimates because the contracted builder is involved in the budgeting phases along with the design team, and it provides a higher level of cost control. Additionally, the construction manager is contracted to deliver the project at a guaranteed maximum price based on an agreed set of construction documents and specifications. We've selected our contractor, Consigli Construction Company, and the board has approved that contract. We have a steering committee for the project. On that steering committee is myself, Craig Piper, and Richard Webb, Dick Webb, you guys probably know him, of SMRT, John Lemieux of Vertex, Bob Eisenstein of Eisenstein Flaherty Associates. Bob, I think some of you have met him. He is our current contractor assisting with administrative oversight of the facility. Rick is on the steering committee as well. Peter Schaefer is our FinCom member, and Don Holgate is our select board member. We also have an advisory committee that meets a little bit less often, but we take input and feedback from that group. And it's the steering committee plus reps from Sherburne, the hospital, our Island Home reps, Friends of Our Island Home, and the Nantucket Center for Elder Affairs, and the Senior Center. While we have established that the new facility will be located at Sherburne, there is a long-term lease between the town and Sherburne for the Sherburne facility that's already there on town property, Sherburne Commons. The lease is subject to an amendment, and we are currently in negotiations with the Sherburne board to put the facility at that site. So at this point, the total project budget, which I think is in your packet, is approximately $96 million. That includes some construction costs that will be related to Sherburne. We are going to be relocating some housing, employee housing that is for them, that is currently where we would be putting the new facility. Those costs are about $6.2 million. So just, I won't go through the entire project budget, because again, that is in your packet, but we've been starting to work on outreach for this. We really kind of need to wrap up our lease negotiations with Sherburne so that we can get the design finalized. We've made some design modifications in response to concerns from them. And the idea would be to get a bid out and bids back in before the 2025 annual town meeting so that we have a solid number. I think that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Rick, do you want to add anything?
No, I don't think so. I think you got it all.
And we're happy to answer questions about it, of course.
Sounds good. Thoughts, comments at this time? Libby, there's a lot of material here, obviously, and it's all very useful, helpful information. I think what we probably do is want to just reserve the right, not to use lawyer speak, to follow up with, questions through finance. So what I would invite members to do is, if you're reviewing the materials and you find you have specific questions, put them together, put them in an email. We'll send them to Sue, and we'll have them, we can get any questions answered that we may have. And then we can address them at our own, internally at a follow-up meeting. And if necessary, we can, ask for a little bit more airtime if necessary. Does that work for you?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Do we send them to just you, or do we CC the group?
I wouldn't CC the group. You can CC.
How do we see everyone else's questions?
Well, so what we'll do is send the, CC the chair, but it won't be a deliberation, because then there'd be a violation of open meeting law. And we don't want to CC the group, because then even if there isn't deliberation, it could be considered a chain communication. And again, we have the open meeting law. But it would be through Sue, and
She can disseminate it.
what we do is just collate them. And what I'd suggest to make it simpler for everyone is that we, this is fresh in our minds because we've had to preview that we will follow up with Sue before the meeting on the, bear with me. No calendar pop up on this one. 2 weeks hence. So that if there's any, if there are questions, Sue has them by, not this Friday, but next Friday. So that they could be put together, and then she can put them in the packet for our following Thursday meeting. Fair enough? Okay.
Steve, also with regard to Island Home, if anybody has sort of technical-ish questions, we'd also be happy to get on the designer and or OPM to join a meeting to help answer some of those questions, because I know it is a very, very large, expensive, involved project.
Yeah, that's great. I think, and I'm hopeful that if there are questions, hey guys, crosstalk makes it hard. It'll help to shape the direction. So do we need to have a designer involved? But I think this is a big project, and there's a lot involved in many aspects of the community, and I think it might be beneficial to kind of aggregate questions and then move forward from
Can I
there.
ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Libby, is there, these is very general. Are Island Home still operating in the red every year?
Well, I can't say that it's ever operated in the black. It's the revenue that comes in from private pay and reimbursements simply does not cover the operational costs. However, we have a $5 million operating override that is dedicated to our Island Home that was approved in 2021 or 2. I can't recently. And with the addition of our new professional oversight group, in the administrative group that I mentioned, Eisenstein Flaherty Associates, we are having a lot of review of things like the reimbursement potential for the residents, and we're bringing in a significant amount of additional reimbursements, which is helping offset the costs even more. And there, in the new facility, there, of course, will be a lot of energy efficiency measures in place, so that will help offset the overall costs of the running of the facility. We don't expect the operating model to really change. There might be one or two more staff people, but there won't be a big operational change. So there also could potentially be some services that can maybe be provided, like PT and occupational therapy, that people could maybe come in for. We haven't been mentioning that too much, because the focus really is just getting the facility appropriation. And we don't want to talk too much about things that may or may not happen with a new facility, but if those things were to happen and could be accommodated, that type of revenue could help offset some of the costs. But it's not a money making, it's not really an enterprise fund. It's not a true enterprise fund. Its operation, its revenue does not pay for itself.
Even just.
Never
a quick
has.
follow-
Christie.
All right, and then, thanks for that. That's actually, it gives me some better understanding how the town feels, I mean, I understand the importance of this, but I also have always been curious on the town side of it, the argument for funding for this, with such a small, a very fractional contingent of the community that it helps. I'm not just saying I understand it's not just the people that are staying there, it's also the people that are working there, that have jobs. And also the appearance of it is also very important, but.
Yeah, Christy, I'm glad you raised that, because we hear that quite a bit. Oh, it only serves 45 people, if that. And while the facility will be built with 45 beds in it, and the room configuration will be able to be modified, the residents are, there are some long-term residents, but the census changes, so people come in and out. There is, we're told, more and more of a market for people to stay there short-term, which recovering from something, and they need full-time nursing care, and it doesn't work for them at their home, and hospitals won't keep you for very long for something like that. There are, as far as a specific population that the facility serves, it's the residents, but it's also, like you said, there are people that work there, but there's families and friends that go there. The new facility has the potential to have not events, but more of more space for there to be activities that people can actually have, because there's virtually no space for activities now in the current facility. And space for, people to come and visit somebody in their room. You can hardly do that right now. You have to go in the hallway, and the hallway's junked up with all kinds of stuff. So yes, the residents are limited, and they are kind of expensive, but there's just a whole lot more community, I don't know what you call this, community benefit, I guess I would say, to this whole operation. It's very unusual, as you all know, for a municipality to operate a nursing home. And if we were strictly a corporation, we wouldn't be doing this. It makes no sense.
Certainly.
Any other? Lydia, I'm cognizant of the time. It's 4:25 now. I had some questions on the staff housing.
Sure.
I guess I'll follow up with those at some point. I just would like to get, I think, 2 points of clarification. One is, the slide indicates Sherburne Common staff housing site plans options. Is this staff housing for Sherburne Commons staff, or is this staff housing on the Sherburne Commons site? So will
So the-
Island Home still also have?
No,
Uh,
the plan is to relocate the existing Sherburne Common employee housing for them only elsewhere on the site so that we can put the Island Home facility where their housing is now. We will actually be building new the plan right now, subject to negotiation, is to actually build new housing for Sherburne Commons employees and move their current housing to the Surfside Sewer Treatment Facility area where the housing is down there, and we will use that for additional sewer employee housing.
Okay, and then it appears that there's at least two options for the Sherburne Commons relocated but new housing. I presume both of those options are covered by the cost estimate, correct?
Covered by the what?
Are
Yes.
they covered with the 96 million?
Yes.
Okay, so whether, whichever option is. And then I guess
Yep.
the last question at this point is, with respect to the proposed RLN home site development and more particularly the lease, will there be, any latitude there to be working in perhaps a future use of that land for our island home staff housing? Knowing the difficulties we have locating nurses, maybe it would be year round, maybe it would be traveling nurses, but is that part of this program or no?
There is no land space for that. However, in the Sherburne facility, they have something they call the Sherburne House. And it was initially going to be a memory care unit. I think, Rick, it has 8 rooms and they are sort of like efficiencies. And we have discussed renting those from Sherburne Commons and putting travel nurses in there. So from that point of view, there is the potential for some island home related employee housing.
Okay,
But we are not proposing to build any at the site for our own home.
gotcha.
Specifically.
Thank you, that's helpful. All right, well, we appreciate that and we'll cut you free. And who do we have next?
I think Rick, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Is Christie on or not?
Yes, Christie's on.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
I see her on.
Okay, I'm just, well, why don't we do Christie, do you want to do the Tacoma Way housing or shall I?
I was gonna have you start. I'm logged on, but I'm on the Cape and the internet keeps cutting in and out.
Okay. So,
Thanks, Libby.
so Stephen,
All right,
is
thank
it,
you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Rick.
Stephen, okay to do we'll do the Tacoma Way town employee housing. So, for anyone on the committee that's not new this year, you'll have seen this one before. This came to you last year. We, as you probably know, we have a small cottage industry in town administration of looking for housing for people, renting houses, buying houses, placing town employees in houses, moving them around. And Christie's department, the housing department, manages all of that along with some help from Amanda in the HR department. We have a wait list for housing of some 30, 35 people, if I'm, Christie, correct me if I've got that wrong, but it's in the neighborhood of that. And so, of course, we're doing everything we can to create town employee housing. The town owns 8 lots on Tacoma Way. It's in the supplementary documents. And we have some very preliminary plans, and I know I hated it when people brought preliminary plans to Capcom when I was sitting with you guys every day. But what we're asking for an appropriation of $14 million to build either on Tacoma Way or on Waite Drive, where we also own about 40,000 square feet of land just to the south of where the dormitory is going to be, or to the, I guess that's to the north then of where the Habitat housing is on White Drive. In any event, so part of our problem here is we have this streetscape, we have the preliminary design. The select board has seen this. They are they've not expressed any objections, but I feel a little bad coming to you guys and saying, hey, it's $14 million and I don't have a bid document, or I don't have a written estimate. Our estimate is based on the Emeritus developed these plans for us and gave us an estimate 2 years ago of $12 million to build the 8 units on Tacoma Way, 4 of which will be duplexes, 4 of which will be single family homes. It's a total of 20 bedrooms with 34 off-street parking spots. All of this is in the supplemental documents. The so a year and a half ago, they told us roughly $12 million. We added $1 million in for an OPM, and we've added $1 million in for the passage of time. So escalating costs. So as you may recall, at last town meeting, this was brought to town meeting as a $3 million misnamed feasibility study. I would say that we kind of fumbled, town admin fumbled the ball in how this was described at town meeting. It was not approved for $3 million feasibility study. It was in fact $3 million to continue working through these plans for Tacoma, and including design plans and OPM. So this is back in front of you as the full package this time, as opposed to feasibility, design, and OPM. I'm going to say we don't actually even know if we're going to build this on Tacoma or Waite Drive. The problem is we need to build employee housing, and we need to build it as soon as we can. And while Christy has been diligently pestering Emeritus to come up with the next set of design plans, we do not have them from them yet. So I'll maybe stop there and see if there's any questions.
Okay, thanks, Rick. We appreciate it. Comments, questions, concerns?
Yeah, this we had last year,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Is it a little bit more this year than last year? I think it was
Is it a little what?
a little bit more estimated this year than last year.
No, it's the same set of design plans. There's probably a little bit more information in there because I put some in based on a presentation I did to select board recently, but we're basically in the same place we were last year, except for Emeritus is working on another set of schematics, one that would fit actually over on Waite Drive. So we'd have both a Tacoma plan and a Waite plan, and then kind of see what the desire of the select board was.
Gotcha. Yeah, Paula?
Yeah, I thought that the money looked different. It's what
Oh,
I'm saying.
sorry. The money's different. Yeah, the money's different by $2 million. One because we've now included an estimated cost for an owner's project manager, and then also just, cost escalation due to the passage of time.
Howard?
Do you have, I'm not seeing a breakdown of how the 14 million is gonna be expended?
Yeah, that's correct. That's why I'm so apologetic about this. The estimate was from Emeritus, the builder, of $12 million to build the 8 units on Tacoma Way. In your supplementary documents, you can see there's a streetscape there. The estimate was given to us verbally, and so we then added in the OPM, about $1 million for an OPM and $1 million in cost escalation for the.
I think I was also kind of striving to find out, is this a turnkey price, or is there additional infrastructure interconnection cost for this? Is there additional construction management costs related to this that we would incur? What else might be incidentally necessary to
Yeah, I mean,
complete it.
yeah, so like, for instance, that does not include furnishing these units. This is just the build cost estimate. There is infrastructure in the street. So, we'd be tying into existing, but, as I've said to you guys, this is a pretty preliminary, plan, for, an extremely important, deliverable. And try as we have, we have not made, progress to get this to a more detailed place.
Howard?
Would you expect that you're gonna let a construction contract for this in the 26 fiscal year?
Well, I mean, I think part of it is that we need to have design money. So we could have split it up and just asked for design money. Now I'd have to come back to you with a better estimate for that, obviously. That's how we got a little bit muddy last year, though. We asked for design money, we asked for OPM money, and we asked for, the rest of the plan build, which was sadly phrased as feasibility. And if you were at town meeting, you'll recall that Cliff Williams stood up and told us he'd do it for 30 grand or some number like that. So
No, he said 3,000, but if a summer student did it.
I wanted to add a zero just to make it a little more reasonable. Yeah, it's fine. So
John. Go ahead, Rick.
and I'm personally, and I don't think Libby is either, against sort of chopping it up. But the point is, we need $14 million to build this stuff, these homes, and we can shape it either way. But I'm a little concerned about waiting another year and figuring out how to actually get the plans to a place without any funding, get the plans to a place that I can come to you guys and you can feel comfortable that that this makes sense. I mean, I've sat through the airport housing with you all enough times to know that this is probably a little problematic for you.
Right, Christie and then Jill.
Rick, I think you might have mentioned this at the beginning of your discussion. Is there a project manager in mind with building experience?
Oh, well, so we would put it out. We'd have to bid that, Christie. So, but yes, I mean, we have Vertex doing the dormitory just around the corner. We have SMRT overseeing Vertex on that project. Actually, we have plenty of people that are qualified OPMs for this sort of project.
Thank you. Jill, you might, John, and go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to know why, and I'm sorry if this is too basic, but why some of this money can't come from the trust?
I can answer that. So the Affordable Housing Trust appropriations at town meeting are specifically for community affordable housing, not for municipal employee housing. So we need a separate appropriation.
But your next question would be, could it be?
It probably can't be, but I just don't, some of these people that we're talking about qualify for affordable housing? I think that's I mean, aren't some of the people that you're talking about, are they on the housing Nantucket?
Municipal employees.
Yeah, but don't some of them
So when employees reach out to the housing department, we make sure that they're on all lists that they are eligible for. We've had in the past several years a lot of new department heads come in, and their income isn't always underneath that 150% AMI.
Yeah.
And so this would really help be able to create that opportunity for staff and department heads to have housing. In a recent employee housing survey that we did, we had about 25% of the respondents are housing cost burden, which means they're spending over 30% of their income on housing. and 18% are severely, meaning that they're spending almost 50% of their income on housing. And we're seeing that about a third of town employees are making just about the 100% area median income. So there's still employees making above that that wouldn't qualify for those affordable programs.
And needless to say, this is, housing is our biggest hurdle in recruiting people. Typically what happens, despite the fact that we try our best, is somebody applies for a job, we have an initial conversation with them. They go do some looking around for rental housing on the island, and all they see is $10,000 a month, and then they're done, they're out, and we're back to looking for other candidates. And even though we tell them, they sometimes just don't believe it. So it is, the housing is a huge hook for us.
And if I could just add, one of the biggest challenges that we've seen in the past year is even when we try to connect employees to other landlords around the island or have the town sign on to leases, a lot of the landlords have things like no pets or restrictions that I would say almost everybody on our housing needs list has a pet. And so we're having trouble finding this match. If we own the housing, we can have more guidance on like what type of housing we want to provide and what those rules and restrictions would be so that we can have accommodating housing for our staff. And just another thing to put out there is we are working with Richmond on a municipal master lease for some of their new units. And so that's going to kind of buy us the time while we are developing this housing that we'll own on either Tacoma or Wait. So we do have an interim solution to this, but if, as Rick was saying, if we wait another year to ask for the full funding and the project is kind of put off for a couple more years for construction, the problem is only getting more and more severe the longer that we wait.
Stephen,
Go ahead, Rick. And then Christie.
just to add,
Christie,
I was just going to say, I would not expect us to go to town meeting with this level of detail, this low level of detail.
Thank you.
And we'd be happy, obviously, I guess what I'm really saying is we're continuing to work on getting more detail. We will never be at the place where we are with, for instance, our island home, where we have spent millions of dollars developing the plans. But we will definitely be at a level where we can give you more comfort at a later date, I guess is really what I'm trying to say. So.
Thank you. Christie Kickham.
Yeah, Christie, just so I can kind of understand scope, as far as year-round town employees, what is do we have a target on the percent of those individuals that we feel we need to provide housing for? Are we going 100%, 30? I don't know what that is. I'm just curious, but and I'm also curious to know how the effort is for year-round housing as opposed to seasonal, and is one healthier than the other?
Well, we definitely need a combination of year-round and seasonal given the needs of our employees. The seasonal dorm that's being built on Wait Drive is going to relieve a lot of that pressure that we're currently using a couple of town-owned properties for seasonal housing. And so that will kind of take the pressure off those properties and they can be re-examined. In terms of how many units we want to supply, that's what we are still trying to kind of come up with as to what's a healthy number. We've been looking at how many people have been reaching out in terms of, we get people in placement, but our list has consistently been around 30 people on our wait list, and we have about 40 people in municipal housing, in which some we own, some we rent. I think at least building these units on Tacoma or Wait would relieve some of that pressure, combined with other opportunities in the community, as we are talking about with affordable housing. There's definitely things that are opening up that are going to help take some of the pressure off market rate units.
Thank you. Anything else? Jill?
Actually, I don't think I heard, Rick, did you say how much you've paid Emeritus thus far? I guess, did they only do this 3-page feasibility study? Is this it?
Yeah, this is the extent of what they've worked on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you asking me how much we paid?
Mhm.
Less than $20,000.
And then my last question is, what about the neighbors?
So that was part of the design here. I mean, in this schematic, we were trying to keep all the parking off the street. I don't know if you have the supplementary document open or not, Jill.
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
All parking off the street, plenty of landscaping, half the houses set well back. And so, yes, we 100%, we haven't done any community outreach about it, but
Right.
it was certainly a design consideration.
Do you think maybe you should do community outreach, given what happened in the past before asking for the money? I mean,
Well, I mean, like, so what do you do?
You know what I'm
Do you do the, sorry, go ahead, Jill, sorry.
no, sorry, Rick, I'm just, we know what happened before and it went on for a really long time.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it's so,
You go leave these.
it's a little chicken and egg, isn't it? So like, go do community outreach without a plan, and you're certain to fail. Or try and get some sort of a plan together so that they have something to respond to, and I think that's what we're trying to get to.
But that's what you have here. I mean, I think.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, yes. I mean, but we actually had there were some other designs, a couple other designs. This just happened to be the one that we all thought was best. But that's what Emeritus is currently doing. And by the way, if we come up with a better design that fits into weight drive, then we'll probably do weight drive first.
Right.
So, which would obviously eliminate the pushback that we would get from this location.
So is the 14 million, that could go to wage drive too?
It could go
It
to
could go.
either or.
Yeah.
I knew there was some flexibility.
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I think I put that in the project description. That would be either or.
But these would be full build outs if you did both of them. Yeah. Gotcha.
John has been waiting patiently. Thank you,
No,
John. I
that's okay.
apologize. No,
Rick or Chrissy, a question. I mean, this is, I guess, slated to be rental units at this moment, right? Or no?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Town owned.
I wonder, did you talk to us about, could these actually become ownership units so that, for this group of people that we know are really struggling to get on the property ladder? And Chrissy, I'm thinking about the new Nantucket Land Trust and whether, would this be a project that would, in conjunction with the land trust, make this, an affordable ownership opportunity. Maybe not, but it looks like it would be one of those projects that could be that. So if you could just talk to us a little bit about, could it be an ownership thing, and could the land trust in fact be a way to reduce the cost to the town somewhat?
I can
Go ahead, Chrissy.
speak to that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, our focus has been on rental, from the select board's kind of strategic plan, and feedback that we've received from them is kind of taking care of our employees and having this stock available, to either offer in the short term or long term, and then if there's changeover, we would still have units available for new employees. I think it's something that we could definitely go back to the drawing board between Rick and I and strategize between either Wait or Tacoma and a few lots about home ownership that would go through an RFP process. And so ultimately it could be the land trust or another developer that could develop that. But it's worth a conversation. And I'd say right now from the select board, the directive we had was that this was really important for the rest of 2.6 fairgrounds, in their overall master plan was for this to be for municipal employee housing.
I guess I would just add to that, the wrinkle of turning this into ownership opportunity for town employees, becomes a little tricky when that employee, let's say the average employee is with the town for 7 years, when that employee leaves. Are we forcing him to sell us the house back, or does he keep the house, or, or he or she, I should say? And I think that just adds a level of complexity.
Richard, the way the land trust works though, is the covenant on it would mean that if someone did want to do that, then they would have to sell it to someone else, in that same AMI pool. So it's not like they can walk away and sell it on the open market.
No. I understand. I fully understand that. I'm simply saying, this is town-owned land, town-built property. And if we sell it to our employees, when our employees leave, what happens? So that it's kind of like living in the company town. You can't quit your job because you're going to lose your housing.
I only bring it up
Yeah.
as a question.
Yeah. No. I fully understand.
I do feel that if we're going to keep professional and especially young professional people on the island, some form of home ownership has to start coming up for discussion. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Rick, Chrissy, I appreciate it. Good information. I think from my perspective, I want to get clarification. The way I understand that this is conceptual in nature, but with respect to the concept of the type of housing you're providing, you're looking, when you say this could be on Waite or Tacoma, you're basically saying something similar to this could be on Waite Drive if we find a plan that we like better than the one we have for Tacoma, or we'll use the plan we presented or something better that you all developed. Or are you talking about a different set of structures with different characteristics for different types of employees? What is the thought there? That's my first looking for clarification on.
So it's not necessarily that this, if you're looking at this Tacoma Way schematic that we, cut and pasted over on Waite Drive. We have not that far. So Emeritus is currently working on a Waite Drive plan, but Waite Drive could end up, there's the Habitat housing. We could just copy the Habitat housing and run it down the rest of the street and make it look like a nice little neighborhood, or we could create our own sort of design and have it be separate and distinct from Habitat. So we're just not there. We're just not there yet in terms of the design. So I
appreciate that. I understand that. I guess, let me rephrase. Is the Waite Drive, like the Tacoma, anticipated to be primarily single family dwellings, whether they're duplexes or not, single family dwelling? Or are you also looking at, if it's Waite Drive, there might be dormitory?
No, so we're not looking at another dormitory on Waite Drive at this point in time. So we have the one, that basically breaking ground next week, and we are planning more of this style, 2-3 bedrooms.
Okay, so I guess my suggestions would be for our group, you've hit the nail on the head. We need to have some more detail. We understand you guys are working through a process. I think one of those details is going to be, obviously which location. I understand you've got the chicken and the egg because you need to look at design options to determine what's going to give you the best cost efficiency. Not necessarily only with respect to building, but also with respect to the need for housing for the employees you're looking to house. But I think, as and as you said, they're in a different way. There kind of needs to be a line drawn. It doesn't have to be a big red bold line or anything like that, but for people, not just the members of the committee here, but also at town meeting, it's a Nantucket pastime. We need to have a line in the sand so we can take one side or the other. But the benefit of that is it starts to focus discussion. And hopefully, unless you're talking about short-term rentals, that means it comes to an end at some point. And the result of that is that something happens. So I think, you know, whatever you guys can do to the extent to bring this to some type of a head in terms of what it is you're proposing, I think would be beneficial, both with respect to fine tuning numbers, fine tuning the presentation of the numbers in terms of line item by major categories, fine tuning what the type of ownership or tenancy would be. Is it, as John was mentioning, through the land trust, the potential to be simple? Is it a tenancy of rental? Because that's also information people are gonna wanna understand, not simply so they know other people's business, but at the per bedroom price here, it would be beneficial to know that, well, there is rental income to offset the capital cost and the carrying costs. So I think all of those things will come together to help, hopefully, you know, move this through town meeting as opposed to having a dollar number on it. I hope that's helpful information to you, and I'm gonna pass it to Jill.
There's one more question. Sorry. Can you just tell me, is Tacoma Green still moving forward? I see it on your list, Christine, in your great presentation that you've been doing.
Yes, Tacoma Green's planning on pulling building permits this December.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I have a very loud.
They're
You're
planning on
building
pulling
permits?
building permits in December.
Oh, okay, great. A lot of action over there.
So Rick, just one benefit of this property is that it actually will visually buffer Tacoma Green, correct?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And I think that if it's this site, it may be beneficial just with your design team to develop some illustrations that show the relationship, because then I think, especially if there's some pochang for vegetation that will be in place, because it will give people a better understanding of what the visual will be.
Yeah, good point.
Any other thoughts on this housing for now? I mean, we'll end up scheduling, I guess, just to give this some shape for future discussion. Rick, when do you think you would have some additional, I don't want to say granularity, but some additional information for us?
Don't go that far.
Yeah.
Well,
I give you up against.
We had hoped to have the weight drive schematic for this meeting. I think once we get the weight drive schematic, we can seriously sit down with Libby and start making, to your point, some decisions. Like maybe, you know, let's just figure out if it's going to be weight or Tacoma. Let's, you know, maybe the weight drive configuration is, you know, only suitable. I'm making this up as I go here for 3 and 4 bedrooms, and we know we don't, that's not our sweet spot of our demand curve. So I would say, I don't know, Christy, I'll defer to you a little bit too, but it'd be a couple months. I thinking, you know, how long things take around here. So
Okay.
let me just think about this before, but in time for, but in time before your report, Stephen.
Yeah, that would be great. And just to highlight, as you well know, we do our preliminary up-down recommendation. It'd be beneficial, I think, for finance. You know, the select board is probably a little bit more in tune with this because they're acting on these initiatives more regularly than finance committee. But I think they both kind of rely on the up-down recommendation. So this, you know, sooner the better. That's going to be mid-November, our preliminary.
Okay. All right. Yep.
If that helps. Okay, so any other questions on those? We're gonna move to town admin projects. Rick, are you gonna represent or present rather the town admin projects?
Well, depends how much energy you guys have left. So I can at a reasonably high level represent the digitization project, and you probably don't need to know a lot about that one since you've been approving it for the last 4 years. But and then the PFAS is a little bit more complicated. So I'm happy to introduce them, and if I don't have the level of detail, we'll just have to, Greg got stuck on an airplane or on a tarmac or somewhere, so maybe we'll just have to reschedule for another time. And if you,
Okay, Rick, let's go for that. Let's see where we
Okay.
get. If we need a little bit more information on one or the other, we'll determine that, and then we can decide how to go forward.
okay, so I gotta get myself a little bit organized here, so give me half a heartbeat here. So let's just start with the digitization. This has been going on since 2019, I believe, where we have been working our way through departments and digitizing documents. And so each year we've asked you from anywhere from $100,000 to $500,000, sometimes to collect a little bit of a bank of money so we could do a larger department. And the last year we did sewer. The big one that's left, and the one we've always been pushing out as far as we could, just because of the size of it, is Plus. And so Plus is next, and Iron Mountain has indicated that it's going to be a pretty significant amount of money. So Greg is asking for another $500,000 this year for the documents, and I think this year and next year are the last 2 years that we'll be asking for money for this. But the Plus documents are vast, and many of them are very old. They were looking at a document from 1852 the other day, I guess, and almost all of them seem to be unique in size, and therefore they're a difficult department to get everything digitized. So that's what this money continues to be asked for, to finish this digitization project. Plus, if you well, Stephen, you probably know better, but that upstairs portion is I'm not sure you can even move between the aisles anymore up there. So that's what this is. It's a continuation of the digitization. So that's about what I know of this. So if that's not sufficient, then we can bring Greg in.
Right. Does anyone, John, this might be new to you because it's not one you've covered before.
No.
This is a project that's been ongoing, as Rick had said, for a number of years, and now it's particular to the planning and land use services. I think if we come up with any questions, we'll, got a member or two who aren't present, we'll follow up through Sue on those, Rick.
Okay.
But the project summary and the documentation is very helpful.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty straightforward project. So why don't we go on to the PFAS?
Yeah, less straightforward, but equally large project. So so PFAS. So hopefully you've got a chance to read the documentation that is in the capital request form. But and of course you all know something about PFAS around the island, I presume. Essentially, this is a little bit like the coastal resilience request that you've had for the last few years, where we don't really know why we're asking for $500,000 or $1 million for coastal resilience. And it's a little bit the same here, because we don't know where we might be forced to put in a new water main. We don't know from DEP how much testing we have to do. So just as a sidebar, we're beginning testing very shortly in the 2FG parking lot and then the Waite Drive area, the whole 246 FG area. Not something that we knew we were going to have to do even a couple of months ago. And then making sure that we're prepared for regulations that are on the horizon. All require resources to be prepared for that, or to be prepared for those things. I will just say that PFAS is a full-time job for more than 2 town employees at this point in time, and so it's a great unknown. a little bit like I said, with coastal resilience, but Greg is at this all day long, every day. So, if the supplemental documents are not sufficient, they are reasonably comprehensive. But if they're not sufficient, then, we'll have to come back.
Gotcha. Questions, comments, concerns at this point on this one? It's a big area, there's a lot I know. Right. Rick, have you got, I guess I have one, you know, this actually could apply to a lot of these projects or these capital requests where there's an amorphous nature because of the variables. So for instance, PFAS, you just explained, we just covered housing where specific designs, needs, create a slightly different outcome, but in both instances with PFAS and housing, we know we need money. We know we're gonna need, you know, probably a certain amount in a particular upcoming year. And we also need it to be available for when we're ready to go.
Yeah.
Stabilization fund isn't the right word, the right term under state law, I don't believe, but have you guys thought about, you know, an authorization for a certain amount, and then there's a secondary approval process so that the citizens who at town meeting vote to authorize the appropriation of those funds can then have a public hearing before they're actually awarded to a particular project? For instance, $14 million for Tacoma or wait. 3-bedroom homes on one, you know, 1 and 2 bedroom on the other. Goes to town meeting, there's an understanding that there's a general cost associated with it. But in order for it to proceed, there will be one other level of review where citizens can become involved. Is there a mechanism under state, the Commonwealth municipal finance law for that type of an approach? And if there is, I'm not gonna ask you to weigh in on the value of it now, but if you guys haven't had a chance to consider it, I would suggest that maybe that would be one way to see if the community will let those things fly in order to get funding authorized so that when the project is ready, you know, the town can move forward. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question, Stephen, and I wouldn't want to answer that without Brian here, but I mean, obviously, some of the stabilization funds, once you put money in them, they require a 2/3 vote at town meeting to get the money out, so it's kind of like, doesn't really meet the needs, right? On the other hand, I think there are some emergency funds that the town can use at its discretion in an emergency, and I think that word emergency has a specific definition. I think it's a really good question, and I think it's you know, it's probably one that should be spoken about more generally and used maybe across. If it's a usable strategy, then, you know, get Brian to do it more often on many more projects.
Yeah, I mean, because you know, then everybody knows what we have a better sense of what we're buying into, but everybody also understands there's still another level before the final approval.
Yeah, no, I completely get it. I mean, you know, coastal resiliency is obviously the easy one to think about here, like, you know, $1 million. Well, okay, well, we don't know if it's going to be Ames Avenue Bridge we need it for, or, you know, new stormwater stuff downtown. You know, it's just, but we have to have the money, and we can't wait a year for it. So anyway,
no, I get it. Okay, appreciate that. I'll hold off, I think, discussion out years at this point on these two. They appear, other than probably those are placeholder numbers at this point, Rick.
Well, I think the PFAS stuff, we just, you know, we just know we're going to need it. You know, there's new regulations coming down the road, so I think that's probably a reliable number. Looking at the other ones, the senior center, I think that probably it's unlikely to be at an FY27 in my opinion, but or maybe it's 3.5 in 27, but the construction money's in 29. And the other ones are school. So in the document management stuff, I think is reliable as well. So I mean, that's all that's out there really. intermodal
Okay.
transportation center. I think, you know, that's Harbor Place, and who knows if that'll ever happen. So I think I think that's been pushed out a year every year since I've gotten here.
Yeah, you're correct.
Mhm.
Okay, sounds good. All right, do you guys have any follow-up questions for, Rick Foley?
Not right now.
Yeah. Okay, Rick, we appreciate, the information. We definitely will look forward to, I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but, you know, just a responsibility of the committee, we're definitely gonna be looking forward to some additional information on the housing and, perchance if that concept develops with the, funding mechanism, it'd be interesting to hear about that. And, I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks,
Thank
Rick.
you.
Take care,
Alright.
everyone. Miss you all.
We've got a little bit more business to dispense with this evening. I'm kind of will go through it quickly. I'm gonna take these out of order unless anyone has a particular concern. Roar evaluations, we are, I believe, having checked. Second guessing myself. Sue, are you with us?
Oh, I am, I don't have my.
Sue, did Plum go ahead and update? I thought that they did, but it had been, I wasn't here last week and I want to make sure I'm not misremembering. Have the evaluation, the group evaluations been input?
Yes, they have.
Okay, great. So, and on our schedule, what's next week?
I believe, give me 1 minute, I do have it open.
I think we're up for a
I
catch
think
up.
next week is what, the 19th, 26th.
Yeah,
Catch up flex date placeholder.
okay, so I'd just like to suggest, guys, next week will be an important refresher on Rory's. And how to use them and how to, and we could, you know, do a study group. You know, be like study hall to get them caught up as opposed to having to do them individually, and we can, it'll be the benefit of a noticed meeting. So there will be an opportunity to, you know, if there's questions about a particular request that's come in to date. I don't think, you know, we're not gonna do other than a, hey, here's a refresher, and this is how somebody might do it with 2 screens open or something like that, where we won't do a structured department by department, but if you pull up a department you're working on and you have questions, you want to ask the group, we can just do that informally. It's not gonna be like a chaired meeting other than that portion where we're doing the refresher.
So maybe we're doing the worries is what you're saying as
Yeah.
we're talking about them.
Yeah, you guys, you know, we'll just be sitting here doing Rory's, and
Are
if
we
you've got a
still-
question.
Holding pattern, are we still not? We
No, well, that's why I wanted to talk to you. You guys are free to get in to the software and use the Rory's to value them.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to get into it before we have a refresher, we'll have that next week. And it's very likely that I think in a group setting and you've got questions, they can be answered. That we'll be able to get through all the Rory's, all the requests that have been open and be done with it in probably an hour. I can't imagine it's gonna take much longer.
Well, there's some of them I'm not gonna do.
Well, there, yeah, I mean, if there's outstanding information, but, so that's my suggestion for the next meeting. And obviously, if there's any outstanding information we're looking for from departments, hopefully we'll have that in hand.
Okay.
Thoughts on the next meeting?
So
John?
that's the whole meaning is that we're not hearing any other requests.
Correct.
I have a request.
Yes.
I need a volunteer to give me some one-on-one training with Rory's before we get to next week. Because I've never done this before.
Sure.
I heard first week we were here, but guys,
Well, no.
Let's sit down. Yeah.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
John, if you have any follow-up, feel free to reach out.
no, it's, you know, I think I can grasp
Yeah.
most things. I just need someone to take me through it though.
Yep.
Before we're in a live session.
Fair enough.
No, it's a learning curve
Absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah.
And a second, if I may, could everybody take a good look back at the airport in the housing? We don't need to do it now, Mr. Chair, whenever, but
Need to go
I
back and
am-
watch that meeting.
I am,
You're gonna make us relive that?
what,
How was
I'm
it?
teasing.
what, the town meeting?
No,
Oh,
the
Oh, the
airport
airport?
meeting.
John,
Oh.
there's just a long history with the housing, that's all I was.
Yeah, every year we get some big.
Yeah,
project.
because I read it, and on one page, you could make an argument that the 6 million is for board. Two buildings with
two.
One way you can read it, 2 duplex, 4 units. But the second page says This project proposes the construction of employee housing for 2 dwelling units. The proposed 2 dwelling units would consist of 1 3,600 duplex. So I don't know whether this 6 million is for 2 dwelling units in 1 duplex or 4 dwelling units in 2 duplex, because there was
They may
4.
not know that either.
Well,
Yeah.
he also had a feasibility study for this, I believe, and he had different layouts for
Yeah.
different levels.
And some of it is going
So
forward
he
already.
should have
right?
it, I mean,
At
one
this
thing I'll
point,
say
I
about
presume
this,
they've pinned it down.
Yeah.
yeah, they have done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
but
what,
They have worked on this for
He,
years.
he's really bad with grammar, and so I think that that's a complex sentence for him.
Howard has couched those terms to in the most.
Okay.
What about, next meeting?
So,
They
yeah, so
should
guys,
ask for
I
the-
think just to give this some shape for moving forward is, Sue, if you wouldn't mind just shooting out a quick message to airport. Specifically, what is the request? Is it one structure with 2 dwellings, or is it 2 structures? How many structures and how many dwellings is what we're,
For the
Feasibility
6
study.
million,
yeah, for the 6 million?
Feasibility study.
Gotcha.
So he should just show that top line
Yeah.
drawing, which we've seen.
Well, yeah, but it'd be helpful to have them say
Yeah, okay.
this many dwellings for this much money, and they're in one structure, or they're in more than one.
They will tune in, they know we're discussing it.
Well, that's why I wanna be fair to them too, is that we're looking for information for our
you
valuation.
should,
But I wanna make a point that before what we saw on paper, remember they moved it and they moved it to a whole different. So I mean, it
Well,
was a big building and they moved the building to its
Yeah,
different
and
location.
that,
So
correct,
things could change, and so what I'm saying
Yeah.
is what's there isn't necessarily what will happen.
cause I'm trying to
Gives
look
us-
at this,
In
you
my-
guys wanna sign?
That's my personal,
John,
yeah, I'm trying to look at this, the cost of this compared to the one we saw, the 14 million, and how many buildings and bedrooms you get. And if this is really 6 million for 2, it is off the charts expensive compared to what we saw.
yes.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get like,
we were too, and I think many of us still have that feeling, like this is. These numbers, there was presentation information with respect to. Airport's justifications of those costs. I don't know that they allayed our concerns, but ultimately it was. I think where we ended up with it, and this is, I just wanna say, for the purposes of open meeting law. We are discussing this topic with respect to ROAR evaluations. Which is on our agenda, and we will, if, it sounds like we're gonna get some supplemental information from the airport, which we just requested. And if we need to have them come back and we can talk about it some more, but this was a common concern for the work group, for the committee, and I don't know that it's necessarily resolved for people, it's just.
Okay.
Moving forward.
Yep.
Howard and then Chris.
Okay, so Sue, can you have the airport people fix the text in the database to reflect whatever it is accurately?
Unambiguously.
Yes, I certainly will. Yeah, I input everything they gave me, so I will get additional information from them. I will try.
And the
I
other,
was just gonna say.
Jill and then Kristen.
What?
Well, she started to talk before you
sorry,
raised
no,
your
well,
hand. I'm rewarding this behavior.
Mine was short though.
sorry, you were worrying about the, right, sorry.
Go ahead.
All I was gonna say is to John's point, we can't track. Future changes if we don't know what the starting point is, so I think to John's point, it's nice to find out what that is.
But on the other end of that, I wanna know what the end game is.
Right.
And they still,
And
they still aren't housing TSA, I believe.
you're referring to, I just want to be clear, the
The
end
entire
game for
project.
that, or you're talking about the entire
The
parcel?
entire parcel.
Yeah, we don't have a master plan from them yet.
Right.
So it makes it difficult because we're considering,
He was looking at basically having enough
Partition.
housing for every single employee at the airport, which I think there are 30 of them, right? But they don't house TSA. And so I always want to ask that, and I wasn't here last week, so I'm sorry, I couldn't, and, maybe we'll get to have them back for a few
Yeah.
minutes or something.
yeah, do you guys want to have them back? No, I mean,
If they tune in,
that's the only one I
We
had.
might need to.
listen, in their defense, they are proactive and they will probably be here if they know we're discussing it.
Yeah, no, I
But yeah.
think, we're being, we're open and transparent, we're being videotaped, we're being displayed on the YouTube. It's not like we're having some discussion that it is the concerns that are being voiced are concerns that have been voiced consistent. So this isn't anything new for the airport. And it's not anything that's necessarily derogatory. It's just, we have some questions we still need answered, and we're gonna see if we can get one of them answered. And I just want to point out
Yeah.
that they do have HDC approval. They have building permits, so they have a very
For the door.
clear understanding of what they're building.
Right.
So we should be able to get a
I agree.
definitive answer.
I agree.
And he's
Would
gonna
help.
let a contract soon, so he has to really.
Yeah, I-
But they have drawings from Ethan, he was their architect.
This has to be already pinned down, so they can just tell us what it's gonna be. Yeah, Christie and then John.
Through you to Jill, just, do you know if, TSA, are those federal employees or those town
Yeah.
employees?
They're federal,
And ops and maintenance are town employees, correct?
yes,
Well, they're airport
Typically.
employees. Does that have something to do with it?
No,
well,
Yes.
I'm asking, I don't know the
the
answer.
employment, it's the capacity that they serve the airport that determines
Emergency
whether they
personnel
can
is
be
a-
provided housing or not on the
it's
parcel.
emergency personnel for the town. I believe,
Yeah.
municipal emergency personnel, they're all in, I think if you're an airport employee, I think. You have a classification as emergency personnel, I think they all have it, I think they even give that status to, the janitors and the cleaning crews, I think they all have that.
So Howard, maybe you were right, but as opposed to being uncertain, what I'm gonna suggest is, Sue, if you would be so kind, we also would like to get back from the airport a kind of just a paragraph on who is entitled to stay in that housing and for what reason. Conversely, who isn't is a broader category and for what reason, and then we can put that to bed.
For example, the Fed houses Coast Guard, the town doesn't.
That's right.
So Mike,
You can't use
I'm just putting it out there, it might be a component of.
I believe you can't use town money for federal. Federal money can't be used for town unless it's specifically earmarked for it.
And also the FAA has restrictions on the use of the land with respect to even the housing component.
But we were trying to look at a way to recoup costs. And they're paying the Nantucket in every single day. I don't see why, is it possible that we could rent a room for the summer because they have extra TSA employees in the summer than
Yeah.
year round.
I get it, I get it.
Well, Mr. Chair, perhaps to add to your list that you were gonna ask.
Yeah.
Maybe we should ask what their expected rental rates are gonna be.
We've done that. We have that.
Yeah,
protection from
okay.
last-
Well, a last comment then, and I don't know whether it's for here, Mr. Chair, but it seems to me that we've got some very talented and experienced affordable housing people on our staff. Christie, sounds like Richard,
Don't stand it.
Tucker Holland. It seems strange to me that the airport would,
They work in a silo. Is that
yeah,
correct?
but, okay, so my question is, should they? If it's town money, should they be doing this in a silo when we have very talented, experienced people that know how to do this?
I think what I would suggest is we direct that to the finance department, because there's
Okay.
gonna be I mean,
Yeah, no, I'm
for
good.
discussion
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Because there's gonna be a component that relates to the fact that this is an enterprise account. They have a certain amount of autonomy, they have an airport commission that has autonomy, they have separate regulations. So if I were to take a stab at it, I would guess that maybe it would be beneficial for the quote unquote town versus airport housing resources and the airport housing personnel to be coordinating for cross consultation, but there's probably a reason why they're silent. But let's ask Sue, if you could have that maybe addressed, is there a necessity to partition housing efforts, and very broadly stating the question, as between the airport and the town proper? Does that make sense to you?
It's the emergency personnel issue. I know it is.
Yeah, I want to make sure, Sue, are you with us? Did you catch that?
I'm sorry that you didn't hear me. Yes, I heard you.
Okay, sure, great. I'm sorry, go back to
I
the.
believe it's because it operates as an enterprise fund and not from the general obligation of the town that it has to be segregated.
Yeah, I agree, but let's get the definitive, so we are all on the same page. Because we've received the information over the years, but it's not fresh on our minds and it's relevant. Jill.
Just making a comment, a small personal comment, that what is hard about that is like what you saw today. We have the HTF, they have their own projects. We have the municipal employees that have with projects for municipal employees, which covers a lot of people. But then you have the airport and they're only covering their airport. And so it's very confusing. And when all those projects go together, I worry that the voters at town meeting look at that and think you're picking winners.
So do I. And that's what's
what I don't
driving,
like about
that's
it.
what's driving.
But I think the airport, in their defense, I don't think they can house, well, they could ask to renegotiate what they've come up with the FAA. They could do that.
It's an enterprise fund. We can't, I mean,
Yeah.
it's gotta be clean. It's gotta be clean lines.
Yeah, and I think once we get the follow-up
Yeah,
from finance on this, it's gonna answer
But
questions.
that board could go to the FAA, is all I'm saying, and ask for a different determination.
It's, right,
So we,
it's a different animal.
Complicated, and I'm
Enterprise
not
fund
saying that we get it.
airport is a different animal than all the other enterprise funds.
and a lot of it, John, just so you're aware, because we wrestled with this for a few budgeting, more than a few budgeting seasons. Is it comes down to the FAA mandates for the use of the land and then the basis for which they'll grant waivers and exceptions. And we've maybe not to our satisfaction with respect to the outcome, but we've questioned this, we've asked for excerpts of that regulations, like it's been an educational process not without some frustration.
Yeah, no, I get it,
And
I get it.
It's, but I think, let's get clarification on who can do what.
My last point, Christie, would be this, is that in the end, let's fast forward 5 years. Affordable housing across the island that the town has funded, the standard of it should look somewhat the same. It shouldn't, a 3-bedroom unit shouldn't be double the size because it's the airport than it is if it's the town doing it for themselves. Or at least I don't think it should. And I think we have a lot of people that know very well how to make sure that doesn't happen.
It's true, John, but you also, depending on who you're housing, whether it's a new employee at the low pay rate or a manager, that housing is gonna look different.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
But it should be
So,
The
professional.
prices should be similar.
Yeah.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And it's,
I agree with all.
Pulled that whole thing apart for us last year. I thought you commented on it.
Yeah.
The difference in price.
it should also be easier to ascertain the differences. The differences in what? The differences in what's being, how many people are being housed? By bedroom, by other metrics like square footage. It should also, and I think that to John's point here, I think that this is where the town could come into, let's standardize and normalize housing. I want to back up for a second, put my HCC hat on. There is such a
I'm
thing
okay
as,
with that.
there is such thing as a Nantucket typical home. And, one of the first, community associations my company managed when we came out here, they had 8 models. Very successful. The homes, some of them would have, it was a 4-bay federal. And instead of having clapboard on the front, they would put a covered porch and shingle the front. Or it would be a, what we refer to as a matikit, and it might have a wraparound covered porch on the primary gable, or it might have a covered porch on a portion of it, or it might be a mirror image. My point is that both on one site, if you're the airport, or on any of the town site, these designs could be standardized. And it could literally be, okay, well, we need to update the cost per square foot. And then extrapolating out these estimates for citizen review committee and for town meeting would be much simpler for our staff our town staff who have many other projects and conflicting priorities. So that's where I think
Yeah, that's what's needed.
it could, where the two groups, housing for the town and the airport folks could get together, ascertain what their basic needs are, and then put forth a design competition, a pay for designs, whatever it is, and come up with some standardization. Howard?
And Jill's point, do you think that it would be helpful to have Tucker come in and help us walk through these based on his knowledge of housing and the projects and affordable housing? Just to, you know, I think he's got a great perspective.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love information.
He went through that last year, it was really helpful.
Yeah, right, and then because he knows all the answers to these questions anyway.
Well,
Yeah.
Christy does too. I mean, we could-
Yeah, I mean, the Christie is the town's,
She's the.
housing.
And then you could have them both come, but I think it'd be easier to have one at a time.
yeah, I would suggest that we would run
Tucker has
this.
institutional knowledge, so.
Yeah, I would
He does,
suggest
yes.
that whomever it is, we run it by town admin to see who they think is gonna best present the information
Sure.
that's relevant to their. Sue, did you catch that on the housing?
There might be something that. No.
But it could be both, guys.
Yeah,
Oh, totally.
yeah, just a set period, we do it on a placeholder day.
Easier to do one at a
Yeah,
time.
housing information day. We just have a lot of housing
Because you
questions.
have two.
And we should, because there's a lot of-
There's a lot of
I
competing
just think we should.
components,
So
and
we need an
I'm not saying they're
expert to come in and
intentionally
get a
doing
picture.
that.
So we'll follow up with Sue on that, because there's a couple of different things that are open.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Liaison, I'm taking these out of sequence. Liaisons,
Just save some of these for next week.
I think. Okay, we're gonna need to do election of officers.
I like the second, the motion.
Because, yeah, because. Well, Peter's not here. I spoke with Peter. Unfortunately,
Is that an open meeting law issue?
no, because he's the vice chair.
That was a joke.
Unfortunately, going forward, I'm not able to serve as chair.
What?
No, my employer recently changed my workday hours. And I am no longer free to attend. In fact, I'm here today on vacation time, which is earmarked my brother's keeper's time. So it's something that I can't continue. So I won't. I just want to be clear about that up front with respect to elections. I did speak to Peter about this. He is involved in other nonprofit volunteer programs here on island, and he is, as some of you know, he's building a family. He's got a young son, and they've got expecting another child, and he's building a house. So he is not able to serve as chair. So I wanted to mention that to you guys so you can determine. My suggestion would be to put off, obviously, election of officers until you guys have a chance to process. And kind of come up, you can have we can have it on the agenda for next meeting.
It's your time.
And you guys can take it from there. So that was the, that's, I'm playing the cards I was dealt,
But you can finish out the season. right?
Nobody has your
Nope.
institutional knowledge, Stephen.
effective immediately. So we'll have election.
Nobody
officers.
has that.
Just playing the cards I was dealt.
We couldn't change the meeting times to.
It's a bigger issue than that. My workday starts later, my workday ends later, and in order to chair this and be able to do it properly, there's a certain amount of time that's involved, and it's not just a matter of, oh, you need an extra hour to start later, unfortunately. So, yeah.
My God.
Well, I wanted to wait till the end of the meeting, we could get through stuff. All right, with that having been said,
Stephen, you have done it for a long time.
yeah, it's
You are-
it's been an honor. I served you capital program committee in the community for 7 years in this role, and it's
done
been
a
a
very
privilege.
excellent
But
job.
you've got
It's
all
been a
the
privilege.
software, I mean, that is like.
We got a lot done, and you guys will get a lot done.
Still on the committee though, right? Or no?
That shoe will drop next week.
What's that? Oh, okay.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
If you can't do one, I can't do the other.
Yeah.
So, in any event, with that news.
Did you have a liaison question? For
Yeah,
next week,
please.
though? Oh, if I can throw it out, I know we all wanna go. We often think about liaison work before anything happens, the initial, but maybe we could considering it's very difficult to do that. Maybe we consider it something, as we wanna visit some of the departments as they invite us, come out and see some of these requests. maybe that's where liaison kicks in somehow.
Yeah, and I would suggest, I think that's a good idea, in general, but more importantly for this budget season, because we've already had departments, and I would just ask you all to consider, there was an email sent back on, I think it was September 24th-ish, I'm sorry, August 24th-ish about liaisons. So pick some departments and be ready to share who you want to sign up with so that that can be coordinated.
Yeah.
Initially through finance department with Sue.
Did you want to make a motion?
Motion adjourned.
On your motion, we can, there's no one there, so we can, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Um,
All right.